So it's April 24th. Just left the gym today. Had shoulders and chest. It's nice to finally get shoulders in. I missed the last 3 shoulder days from being sick, then injured, and then sick again. Last 4 weeks have been pretty brutal. But I also got just about 1 week left of this diet. I aimed for doing 3 months, and May 1st will be the end of that. I'm looking really forward to having this thing called a monster lasagna at Nate's Italian Kitchen, and it's earned its name. It's a big lasagna. Oh man, I'm having dreams about it. Anyway, I learned a couple things doing the diet. Some things were harder than I expected. Other things that I thought were going to be hard actually weren't hard at all. One of the things I would say for most, like, because I've done like diets before, I lost weight, but it's not been anything where I really tracked it every day really hard and, you know, kept a log and was basically serious about it. So I've lost weight before, normally over the long term, nothing that was really focused. These last 3 months have been pretty epic, been pretty good weight loss. So it's a nice little bump to be able to lose a couple chunks. And then, so what I would say, one of the things I would recommend is before you do it, track your stuff before you start the diet. Because it was actually a little bit more of an ordeal than I thought tracking it. In fact, when I first started, you could write it down on paper, you could write it down on like an Excel on your phone or buy an app for it. I downloaded a free app and paid the premium service so I could track stuff because I was intending to do all the macros, which is not just calories, but track how many grams of protein, carbs, and fats. And that was just way too much. And I learned like 2 days into that, if I have to do this to start, I'm not starting. Like it's an insane amount of work because there's a lot of things that don't list all the ingredients. And so then you got to kind of guess, you know, whether you're looking online or using AI to help maybe weigh the stuff and then do some math to try to figure out, you know, what it is to try to get as close as you can to track it. So I ended up just sticking to just calories. Now I also track my protein, but that's because I'm trying to go to the gym and still get stronger during the diet. I'm not trying to, you know, lose muscle mass. So I'm trying to hit protein goals. So I track that, but the main thing is the calories. So it doesn't really matter. Ultimately, the weight loss is always if you're in a deficit of calories. If you're intaking less than you burn in a day, you burn it walking, breathing, everything. You burn it while you sleep. So, you know, finding that right balance and where you need to be is important, but also just being able to track it. So I'd say, you know, for at least a few days, if not like a full week, try to track it before you actually start the diet. You don't even have to change what you're eating, how you're eating, when you're eating, right? Just track it, just so you know where you're starting at. And then when you start it, when you have a number that you're trying to hit a daily target and get under, it's a little bit easier because then you know how to do the math, you know how to add it, and just be consistent about it. So you're not trying to do too much to start, which is it's hard enough to start, let's be honest. So anyway, did the 3 months. I'm glad I didn't do all the macros and everything. That'd have been way too much. Like I said, actually, I downloaded an app and paid for the premium service and then realized I'm not doing this. So what worked for me is I ended up just keeping a log at home on paper. That's all I did. It made it easier too, because then it's like, well, I mean, I try to measure out everything. It's like if I have ketchup when I have some chicken, I want to measure that out. So I have how many ounces or how many calories are in an ounce of ketchup. Peanut butter, you know, I just measured out so I don't have to keep doing the math over and over again. So I got kind of like in my log on page 1, I got kind of a list of the common things to make it a lot easier. So I'm pretty excited to be able to get over that. I think I've ended up debating on when I want to do it again, and I think I'm going to wait until either beginning of next year or towards the end of this year. And I'm probably going to do it for 2 months instead of 3. 3 was kind of rough. I can do it. I was able to do it. I could do it again. I think the injury and getting sick twice made it a little bit more difficult than it probably needed to be, because then, you know, I had to really find a way to figure out how to, like, what kind of calorie level I want to be at, because when I was injured and sick, I wasn't going to the gym. And the gym, when I go on, I'm working out pretty hard. It ends up burning a decent amount of calories. So if I'm not going to the gym, I got to cut down my daily intake. So there's a little bit of a touch and go. I'm kind of playing with all that there. But that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I'll give anybody on that. So even if it ends up being something where I lose, you know, 'cause I mean, even before I started the diet, you know, I've been coming to the gym for a few months, signed up in October. I was still losing 2 to 4, I think I lost 5 pounds 1 month without even doing anything different, like not tracking or eating differently, just, you know, considering food, making sure I was hitting my protein and basically eating for fuel. And I was still losing weight. So it was, and I was seeing a lot of differences. So I know I was adding some muscle mass and still losing body fat. So I mean, it still works. I'm not looking to lose 120 pounds in 6 months and then start having skin everywhere. So what I might end up doing is at least taking a good 6 months off, if not maybe the rest of the year, and then figure out towards the end of the year or beginning of next doing another 2 month, maybe another 3, see where I'm at. So yeah, it's worked out pretty well, but I am having dreams about that lasagna. I'm not gonna lie. And I'm not like bodybuilder, so I'm not going into a bulking phase. Like, I'm not purposely force feeding myself so I can have a ton of energy to burn off in the gym. I'm just gonna up the calories a good 300 or 400 calories a day, somewhere around there, which at least will make it a lot easier to hit my protein goals. Because right now, trying to stay underneath a certain calorie level, it's kind of a battle to make sure I hit my protein and not go over my calories. Shakes are really the only way I can do that to supplement it. If I do it with straight food, gets unedible after a while. It's just really hard to be able to do that. So pretty much everything I eat has to have a decent protein content percentage-wise. So it really limits on what kind of food I can eat. So if I get an extra 300 or 400 calories a day in my diet, that'll make it a lot easier to hit those goals. I mean, I don't even care about snack. I haven't had a single cheat meal. Because I mean, for me, cheat meal would be something that would put me way over my calories, right? I could pretty much eat anything as long as my calories are underneath that certain level that I have for my mark. And I've only gone over that once, and that was this last weekend. And I blew it out of the water by like 250 calories, and that was okay. It was my first day back from my second illness after an injury, and I just stuffed my face, and it was good. It was still high quality food. It wasn't like Doritos or candy or anything like that. It was still quality food, but I've only had one day where it went over, and I don't even consider that a cheat meal. It just went over, for the whole day. So anyway, I don't plan to put on pounds or bulk. I think they just call it a maintenance level. So that breathing room is going to be really important, though. Plus, then if I do want to go out to eat, I'm not going to be as worried about what I order, because like I was saying earlier, a lot of these restaurants, I didn't realize until I started the diet, not every restaurant is required to show the calorie content or other pieces of information. Even health restaurants, like there's this right next to the gym, there's this Flower Child I really like, and they do show the calorie content, but they don't give you what the protein amount is, the carbs and fats, if you're tracking those, so you kind of got to do some guesswork. But I learned, I think it's, if I misquoted this, sorry, but it's somewhere like if it's a restaurant that has 20 or more locations, then they're required to, by law, to list the calorie content, on the menu. If it's less, which a lot of places I like eating at are, one-offs or smaller places, they're not required to. So it gets a little bit harder to do all the math, but having that little bit of freedom is going to make that a lot easier. Well, enough about that. The markets are really interesting. It looks like some of the tariff trade war is going to be ending soon. I've mentioned that, I think, in the last video. Then I got sick again. Getting food poisoning, so that was a fun week. But it looks like things are starting to get serious about winding down. There's a lot of countries that are, without getting into the politics of it, there's a lot of countries that are kind of begging to make deals and kind of getting off the books on that. And it's been pretty clear that our focus as a country is going off of those countries and just focusing on China. And it looks like China's coming to the table, and that means there's going to be concessions on both sides, and that's fine, because it's going to be better than where it was, last year and years before that. So it'll work out. But markets really want that stability, whether it's good or bad. They want that stability. They don't like this turmoil, the unknown, the fear and uncertainty of it all. So we'll see what happens. I'm pretty excited about it. Need to dig in a little bit more to this Jack Mahler's company. He's teaming up with Cantor Fitzgerald, kind of starting a new company. Just at its surface level, looks like it might be trying to be like a competitor to MicroStrategy, now called Strategy. Strategy really has cornered the market on being able to securitize Bitcoin, especially back prior to the ETFs, but even now after, with a whole bunch of different type of investment vehicles that just aren't out there without just buying straight Bitcoin or buying the ETF. So I mean, competition is always going to be a good thing. I just don't know how successful they're going to be. I'm a big fan of Jack. What he does with Strike and what he does with his own time and his own money outside of Strike is, in the space and just for humanity in general, he's a really good kid. The CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald Lutnick. I have my issues with him. I haven't heard anybody that works directly with him ever say he's a nice person. they all dislike working for him and with him, but I mean, he's done a lot of good things business wise, and he's doing a lot of good things in the administration. So I'm holding out hope that that's not an issue. Big partnership with them, and with Tether, and I think I may have mentioned on a previous note about Lutnick's comments at Nashville Bitcoin conference in 2024 about his speech on Tether. He talked about some of the problems with USDC, and then when he explains why Tether's not a problem, he basically in 20 minutes said, "Trust me, bro." So I'm like, I mean, that's kind of the great thing about Bitcoin. It's trustless. You don't need to have a guy saying, "Trust me, bro," to not be worried about it. So anyway, rambling a little bit here. I'll cut this one off here. Tomorrow's arms, I'm kind of excited about that. I'll get back in the red light. I haven't done the red light in a week or so, just because everything going on, and when I'm here, they've kind of been longer gym sessions, and I don't really want to be here for 3+ hours. So catch you on the next one.